Keanu Reeves sat alone on his birthday. The cake was untouched, the phone never rang, and silence filled the room. But just as he thought the night would pass in emptiness, a knock at the door changed everything. Outside waited a small box, and inside that box was a letter that would open the deepest secret of his life. The night was quiet, but his heart was not. Keanu Reeves sat alone in his small living room, the faint glow of a single candle flickering on the table. It was his birthday. For the world outside, he was a star, a name that carried weight and admiration. But inside these walls, he was just a man staring at silence. The phone had not rung. No messages had come. The cake remained untouched. From the first minute, his silence carried a question that weighed on him heavier than the years behind him. What does it mean to be celebrated if no one is here to share the moment? Rain began tapping softly against the window, as if the world itself was speaking to him in gentle whispers. He leaned back, his eyes locked on the flame, thinking of all the people he had lost along the way. Every birthday seemed to bring their memories closer, reminding him of what had been taken. His father's absence, the pain of losing friends, the quiet emptiness that followed each great success. But then, the sound of a soft knock broke the silence. It was so light he thought he imagined it. He hesitated, his breath still, his hands trembling slightly as he placed the candle down. Was it the rain playing tricks on him? He stood, each step slow, the old floor creaking beneath his weight. He opened the door. Nothing. Only the storm waiting outside, wind brushing against his face. But then he looked down. There it was. A small box wrapped not in fancy paper, but in something simple. Brown paper tied with twine. It looked old, weathered, almost as if it had been traveling a long time to reach him. His heart raced. He bent down, picked it up, and closed the door. The box was light, almost too light. He set it on the table next to the candle and untied the twine with careful hands. Inside was not what he expected. There was no gift, no jewelry, no sign of a fan. Instead, there was a folded letter and a photograph. He froze. The photograph was faded, edges curled with time. It showed a group of people standing together in a sunlit park, and among them was a face he knew, a face he thought was gone forever. His chest tightened, his throat closed. It was impossible. It could not be real. His hands shook as he unfolded the letter. The handwriting was old, uneven, but familiar in a way that made his eyes sting. You thought I was gone, but the truth is deeper than you ever knew. One day, when the world is ready, you will understand why. The letter ended there. No signature, no date. Nothing else? Keanu sat still, the photograph trembling in his hand. Was this a cruel trick? Or was it a sign that someone he had mourned for years was still out there? His mind spun, memories colliding with the present. Every laugh, every loss, every moment of goodbye now seemed uncertain. He whispered to himself, almost in fear, "Who sent this?" And then, from the corner of the room, he noticed something else. The window was slightly open. He was sure he had closed it earlier. Rainwater dripped on the floor, leaving a small trail. Someone had been here. Someone had left this gift. His heart pounded louder than the rain. Was this the beginning of a cruel game, or the start of something he had been waiting for all his life? And as the candle flickered one last time, he knew this night was only the beginning. The rain kept falling harder outside, but Keanu's mind was louder than the storm. He sat frozen, the photograph still trembling in his hands, the letter lying open on the table. The words burned into him, filling him with a strange mix of fear and hope. He whispered again, almost in disbelief, "How can this be true?" The room felt smaller, the candlelight weaker, as if the air itself carried secrets. He leaned back into the chair and stared at the photo again. His eyes searched every face, every detail. The trees in the background, the shadows on the ground, even the clothes worn by the people. It all seemed familiar, like a piece of his own past. And then his eyes returned to that one face, the face he thought he would never see again. It was someone he had lost to time, someone whose memory was carved into the deepest part of his soul. He pressed the photo against his chest. The years of grief, of carrying a quiet pain, suddenly felt shaken. If this letter was telling the truth, then he had lived all this time with a lie. But who could have hidden something so heavy? Who would want to keep him in the dark? Another knock. Louder this time. His whole body stiffened. He stood slowly, his feet heavy, his mind racing with questions. When he opened the door, the storm poured in, the wind slapping his face. But once again, no one was there, only the sound of rain. He was about to close the door when his eyes caught something different. Footprints. They were faint but visible, leading away from his porch into the darkness. Barefoot prints, smaller than his, almost delicate, washed slowly by the rain. His heart thudded. He stepped outside, the cold rain soaking his hair, his clothes sticking to his skin. He followed the prints a few steps before they vanished into the storm. He looked around, but the night gave him no answer. All he heard was the sound of water dripping, the rustle of the trees, and his own breath shaking. He returned inside, locking the door this time. Though he knew locks could not guard him from truths already breaking into his life, he sat again, pulling the letter closer, reading every line over and over. There were no details, no clear answer, only that one line. You thought I was gone, but the truth is deeper than you ever knew. He could not let this go. Not tonight. He searched the box again, feeling around the edges, tapping the bottom, hoping for some hidden clue. His fingers brushed against something stuck to the inside corner. Carefully, he pulled it out. It was a small, folded paper, almost missed in the shadows. He opened it. Inside was a single word, written in the same uneven handwriting. Wait. The word hit him harder than a scream. Wait for what? Wait for who? The candle flickered again, and suddenly the power in the house went out. The room dropped into darkness. The storm outside, the only source of light flashing through the windows. He froze, every sound amplified, the drip of rain, the distant thunder, his own racing heartbeat. For a moment, he thought he saw movement in the corner of the room, a shadow, small but present. He blinked, trying to focus, but the next flash of lightning revealed nothing. Still, the air felt different. He lit another candle with trembling hands. The flame grew, pushing the darkness back just enough. He whispered to himself, "Someone is watching me." The night stretched long. He could not sleep. Every creak of the house, every shift of the wind made him wonder if the person who left the box was still near. He sat in his chair until dawn, staring at the letter and the photograph. Morning finally came, but it brought no peace. The storm had passed, yet the questions remained heavier than ever. Keanu placed the photo in his pocket, the letter folded carefully beside it. He could not ignore this. He had to find answers. As he stepped outside, the world looked freshly washed by rain, but his eyes were sharp, searching for clues. The footprints were gone. The box on his table was the only proof that something extraordinary had happened. He closed the door behind him and whispered softly, as if speaking to whoever had left him that gift, "I will find you." What he did not know was that his search for truth would take him into a journey that touched every part of his soul, a journey where kindness, betrayal, and the deepest form of resilience would be tested. And as he walked down the path away from his house, a quiet figure watched him from a distance, hidden in the trees, holding another letter meant only for him. The morning light was gentle, but Keanu's heart was not at rest. He walked slowly through the quiet street, the photograph pressed safely in his pocket. Every step carried a weight, not just of the mystery left at his door, but of the years of silence he had carried inside. He knew he could not ignore it anymore. There were too many questions, too many pieces of his past that now felt like puzzles waiting to be solved. He wandered into the city where people moved quickly, laughing, talking, living their ordinary mornings. For them, it was just another day. For him, it was the beginning of something that could change everything. He kept thinking about the word written on the second piece of paper. Wait. Wait for what? Wait for who? Or was it a warning? As he crossed the street, his phone buzzed. A message had arrived. His heart jumped. He pulled it out quickly. No number was shown, only the message. Go back to where it all began. His breath caught. His hands grew cold. He looked around, but no one seemed to be watching him. Still, he felt eyes on him, a presence he could not explain. Where it all began, he whispered. There were so many places in his life where things had started, so many moments that shaped him. But deep inside, he knew which one the message meant. It was the old park, the same park where the photograph had been taken. A place he had not visited in years because of the pain it carried. His chest tightened. Going back there would open wounds he had buried, but he had no choice. The message was clear, and his heart told him it was the only path forward. Later that afternoon, he arrived at the park. The air was still, the grass wet from the storm. Children played in the distance, their laughter echoing faintly, but for him, the park carried a silence heavier than stone. He walked slowly along the path, memories pulling at him with every step. He reached the old bench. The wood was cracked, faded, but the place still held the same weight it had years ago. He sat down, running his fingers over the surface, remembering the conversations, the promises, the goodbyes. Just as his eyes began to sting with the memory, he noticed something strange. Tucked beneath the bench was another envelope. His heart leapt as he pulled it out with trembling hands. It was sealed with wax, simple and red. He broke it open. Inside was another letter. The truth cannot stay hidden forever. Follow the signs and you will know. But be careful. What you find may hurt more than what you lost. He stared at the words, his heart torn between fear and hope. Why was someone dragging him back into this? Why now, after so many years? Before he could think further, he heard footsteps behind him. Soft but quick. He turned, but the path was empty. Still, the feeling of being watched grew stronger. He rose from the bench, scanning the trees, the bushes, every corner of the park. And then he saw her, a woman standing far away, half hidden behind a tree. Her figure was familiar, her presence haunting. His eyes locked onto her and his breath caught. She looked at him for a moment, then turned and walked away quickly. "Wait!" he called out, his voice breaking the silence. He ran after her, but by the time he reached the spot, she was gone. Only the sound of leaves swaying in the wind remained. His chest pounded. Who was she? Why did she run? Could it be the face from the photograph? The one he thought was gone forever. As he stood there, trying to catch his breath, he noticed something left behind on the ground. It was a small silver key shining faintly in the sunlight. He picked it up, turning it over in his hand. No name, no note, only a number carved into it. 27. He held the key tightly. This was not just a coincidence. The photograph, the letters, the messages, and now this. Someone was leading him step by step into a truth he was not ready for, but could not escape. That night, back at his home, he placed the key on the table beside the photograph and letters. The candle flickered again as he sat in silence, staring at them all. He whispered to himself, "Someone is playing with me, or someone is saving me." But deep inside, he knew one thing. This was not the end. This was only the middle of a path filled with shadows, kindness, and a truth that would test everything he believed about love, loss, and the people he trusted most. And somewhere in the distance, in a room unknown to him, the same woman he had seen in the park held another photograph of him, her hands shaking as tears rolled down her face. The key sat on the table all night, glowing faintly in the candlelight as if it carried a heartbeat of its own. Keanu barely slept. His eyes kept drifting back to it, his mind circling around the number carved into it, 27. What could it mean? Was it an apartment? A locker? A storage unit? Or was it just another piece of a puzzle designed to push him deeper into the unknown? By morning, his decision was clear. He could not leave it unanswered. He placed the key in his pocket, tucked the photograph and letters into a small leather bag, and stepped outside. The city was waking, people rushing to work, children hurrying to school. But he walked slower, every step deliberate, as though the streets themselves might whisper a clue if he listened closely enough. His first thought was the old building downtown, a place tied to his earliest memories. He hadn't been there in years, but something about the number 27 pulled him back. As he reached the building, its worn bricks and cracked windows told stories of time and silence. The heavy door groaned as he pushed it open. The hallway smelled of dust and forgotten days. He walked past doors marked with numbers, his fingers brushing the walls. And then he saw it, 27. The number etched into an old iron door. His heart thudded louder. With trembling hands, he pulled the key from his pocket. It slid in smoothly, almost too smoothly, as if it had been waiting for him all this time. He turned it. The lock clicked, and the door creaked open, Inside was not a room but a small storage space. The air was thick, heavy with age. In the corner sat a wooden chest, old but solid. He stepped closer, each breath sharp, his hand reaching out. He opened it slowly. Inside were stacks of letters, photographs, and small objects wrapped in cloth. He picked up one bundle and unwrapped it. Inside was a bracelet, simple and worn, the kind that could only carry meaning if it had been given by someone close. Beneath it lay another letter. He unfolded it with shaking hands. "You are closer now, but every truth comes with a price. Do you still wish to know?" He dropped onto the floor, staring at the words. His heart said yes, but his mind feared what was waiting. Who was leading him here? Why hide so many pieces of his own life from him? Suddenly, footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. He froze. The air tightened. The sound grew closer. He stuffed the letter and bracelet into his bag and closed the chest quietly. He stepped back, eyes locked on the doorway. The footsteps stopped just outside. Silence. Then, a faint knock on the metal door. "Who's there?" he called, his voice breaking the stillness. No answer. The knock came again, softer this time. His hand trembled on the door handle. With one quick breath, he pulled it open. The hallway was empty. Only the shadows stretched across the floor. But then he noticed something at his feet. A folded piece of paper slipped under the door. He bent down and picked it up. The handwriting was the same as before. "Do not trust everyone who comes to you. Even the closest faces may hide the deepest lies." His throat tightened. He looked around again, but no one was there. He locked the storage room, pocketed the key, and left quickly, his eyes scanning every corner, every face he passed. But no one looked at him. No one followed. Yet the feeling of being watched had never been stronger. That evening, as he returned home, the weight of the letters and objects pressed heavily on him. He laid them out on the table. Photographs of smiling faces, letters written in familiar handwriting, and objects that belonged to people he once loved. It was as if someone had collected the missing chapters of his life and hidden them away, waiting for this exact moment. He picked up one photograph, staring at it until his eyes blurred. It showed him standing with a woman whose arm was around his shoulder, her smile soft and kind. The same woman he thought he saw in the park. The same face from the first photograph. "It can't be," he whispered. His hands shook as he held the photo closer. The memories fought to surface, but the pain of loss had buried them too deep. Just then, his phone buzzed again. Another message, no number. Only words. "You are not alone tonight." His chest tightened. He turned toward the window. Outside, across the street, he saw the faint glow of a figure standing under a lamp. Still. Silent. Watching. He closed his eyes for a moment, his breath shallow. When he opened them again, the figure was gone. Was he being haunted by a ghost of his past? Or was he being protected by someone who had never left him at all? The questions dug deeper, but one thing was certain. This was not just a mystery. This was personal. This was tied to his life, his losses, and the people he thought he had buried in memory. And somewhere, hidden in another place, the woman's voice whispered to herself, "Not yet. He is not ready to know everything, but soon." Night returned. But this night felt different from the others. Keanu sat in his living room once again, the table before him covered with photographs, letters, and the small bracelet he had found in the storage chest. The candlelight flickered, casting long shadows that seemed to move across the walls like silent watchers. He stared at the objects for hours, his mind chasing the same question again and again. Who was leaving these for him? And why now? His phone buzzed again. Another message. This time the words were sharper, more direct. "The truth waits at the edge of memory. Tomorrow go to the old house by the river. Bring the bracelet." His breath caught. The old house by the river. He had not thought of that place in years. It was where he had once shared moments of laughter and quiet happiness with the same person he had lost. The same person whose face haunted the photographs. His heart raced. Was this leading him back to her? Or was someone using his grief to control him? He barely slept that night. Every sound in the house kept him awake. Every flicker of the candle reminded him of the figure he had seen under the street lamp. Morning felt like it would never come. But when it did, he rose with determination. He tucked the bracelet into his pocket, along with the letters and photograph, and set out for the river. The path to the house was quiet, lined with tall trees swaying in the wind. The river shimmered faintly in the distance, carrying whispers of the past. The house stood there still, old, worn, but not forgotten. Its windows were dark, its walls cracked, but it carried the weight of memories that refused to fade. As he stepped inside, the air grew heavy. Dust floated in the sunlight that streamed through broken shutters. He walked slowly, every creak of the floor echoing like a voice. He reached the living room, and there on the table was something waiting for him. Another letter. He opened it quickly, his hands trembling. "You are close now. The answers you seek are not far. But before the truth there is pain. Are you ready to face it?" He swallowed hard. He was not sure he was ready, but he knew he had no choice. Suddenly, a sound came from upstairs, soft but clear. Footsteps. He froze. His heart pounded. He turned toward the staircase, the wooden steps groaning under invisible weight. "Hello?" His voice cracked as it left his lips. No answer. Slowly he climbed the stairs. Each step was heavier than the last, as if dragging him deeper into the unknown. When he reached the top, he saw a door slightly open. Light spilled out from inside. He pushed it open. The room was empty, except for a mirror leaning against the wall. In front of it, resting on a small table, was another photograph. He stepped closer, his chest tightening. The photograph showed him sitting on this very staircase years ago, his arm around the woman he had loved. She was smiling, alive, real. His hands shook as he held it, his eyes filling with tears. How could this photo appear here, in this place, on this day? And then, in the reflection of the mirror, he saw movement. Not behind him, but beside him. He turned quickly, but no one was there. When he looked back at the mirror, the reflection was wrong. He was there, but standing next to him in the reflection was the woman herself. Her eyes were sad, her face pale, but her presence undeniable. His knees weakened. He whispered her name, though his lips barely moved. "It's you!" A sudden crash downstairs broke the moment. The mirror shook, and when he looked again, she was gone from the reflection. He ran downstairs, his heart racing. The front door was wide open. Someone had entered. On the floor by the door lay a new object, a music box. Small, wooden, carved with delicate patterns. He picked it up with trembling hands and opened it. A soft melody began to play, one he recognized immediately. It was the song she used to hum to him on quiet nights. His eyes filled with tears. Whoever was leading him on this journey knew every piece of his past, every secret wound, every hidden moment. But the music box carried more than a song. Inside, folded beneath the mechanism, was a final note. "You are almost there. The truth is waiting for you at the place where light meets silence. Do not be afraid." Keanu closed his eyes, the melody still echoing in his heart. He knew now that he was being pulled towards something far greater than just memories. The truth was close, but so was danger. And outside, hidden in the shadows of the trees, the woman stood again, watching him with trembling hands and tearful eyes. She whispered into the wind, "Soon, he will know everything." The night felt colder than ever. Keanu sat in silence, the music box resting in his hands, its faint melody still echoing in his ears. The note inside had given him a destination, the place where light meets silence. The words haunted him, turning in his mind like a riddle he could not let go. What place carried both light and silence at once? He thought about it again and again until the answer finally came. It was the old chapel on the edge of town, a place where he once lit candles in memory of those he lost. It was filled with light from stained glass windows, yet inside it carried the silence of prayers unspoken. His heart tightened. He knew that was where he had to go. Before dawn, he set out, carrying the bracelet, the letters, the photographs, and the music box. The streets were empty, the world still asleep, but his steps carried the weight of everything he had discovered. As he reached the chapel, its tall doors loomed before him, heavy but familiar. He pushed them open slowly. The air inside was cold, but filled with a quiet that felt alive. Sunlight filtered through the stained glass, painting the floor with colors. He walked down the aisle, each step echoing until he reached the altar. There, resting on the wooden surface, was another envelope. He opened it carefully. "You are here. The truth is no longer hidden. Turn around," his breath caught. His hands shook. Slowly, he turned. And there she was, standing at the end of the aisle, her eyes fixed on him. The same woman from the photograph, the same face from his memories, the same figure he had seen in shadows. She was real, alive. His knees nearly gave way. "It's you!" His voice cracked. She walked toward him slowly, her eyes filled with tears. "I never wanted you to find out like this," she whispered. "But I could not stay hidden forever." He stared at her, his chest heavy with disbelief. "All these years, I thought you were gone. I grieved for you. I carried your loss every day. Why? Why did you disappear?" Her hands trembled as she reached into her pocket, pulling out another letter. "It was not my choice. There were people who wanted to hurt us. People who thought keeping me away would protect you. I was forced to vanish. I lived in silence, watching from far away, waiting for the day you were ready to know the truth." His eyes filled with tears. The anger, the love, the grief, all collided inside him. "Ready, I spent years broken. I thought I had no one left. Why didn't you come back sooner?" She stepped closer, her voice soft. "Because you were not safe. Because the world was not safe. But I never stopped loving you. I left pieces behind, hoping one day you would find them. The photographs, the letters, the music box. They were the path back to me." He covered his face with his hands, his body shaking. The chapel filled with silence, broken only by his trembling breath. Then, slowly, he lowered his hands and looked at her. "All this time I thought I was alone. But you were there, weren't you? In the shadows, in the distance, always watching." She nodded, tears falling freely now. "Yes, I never left you, Keanu. I was with you. Even when you couldn't see me." The weight of the years pressed down on him, but in that moment something broke open inside. The pain of loss gave way to the shock of love still alive. He stepped forward and she met him halfway. When they embraced, it felt like the world itself paused. They stood there, holding on to each other, the silence of the chapel turning into something sacred, something healing. For the first time in years, Keanu felt whole. But the truth was not without cost. She pulled back, her eyes heavy with unspoken words. "There is more you need to know," she whispered. "Those who forced me away, they still exist. They may come again. We are not free yet, but now at least we are together." He looked into her eyes, strength rising in him. "Then let them come. I've lived with emptiness. I've lived with silence. But now I have you again, and I won't lose you this time." The sunlight through the stained glass grew brighter, falling over them both like a blessing. For the first time in so long, he felt hope. Not the fragile kind that breaks under pain, but the strong kind that survives storms. And as they walked out of the chapel together, side by side, the music box in his hand began to play again. Its melody carried into the morning air, soft but unshakable, like a promise that love could survive even the deepest silence. This was not the end of their story, but it was the end of his loneliness. The surprise he never expected on his birthday had turned into the gift of truth, love, and resilience.